Most people who found this clip thought it was just another creepy upload making the rounds online. Then people started checking the details, and one thing didn't add up. The video had already been sitting online for years, and nobody could find who posted it. No channel history, no upload notes, just a title, a runtime, and a claim that it captured an account first written down in 1887 in the hills of Vermont, in a farmhouse ledger that surfaced decades later and was never fully explained. The claim was that a family survived brutal winters by freezing their elderly solid and thawing them out again unharmed come spring. What follows is that account. Read in the words it was originally written in, the words of a 9-year-old girl named Ruth Colby. I was 9 years old in the winter of 1887, living with my family on a ridge outside a town too small to matter on any map. We had a tradition up on that hill, something none of the families down in the valley shared or would ever admit to if they did. Neighbors who passed our place in December always walked a little faster, and none of them ever asked why our barn stayed shut tight until April. When the first real frost hit, my family didn't just stock the cellar and split the wood. We prepared our old. My grandmother, Constance, was 73 that year, and she'd been coughing through most of October. Rather than risk her dying slow through a hard winter, my father mixed a solution his own father had taught him. Spirits, herbs, and well water, boiled down thick until it smelled like something between medicine and rot, and used it to put her into what he called the long sleep. We carried her out to the barn, laid her on a raised board, and left her to freeze solid until the thaw. My brother said it had worked for our great-grandfather twice, before he finally passed for good. I remember Constance was smiling when it happened. Calm, like she'd done this before. She had. 3 winters running, and every spring she'd walked back into that kitchen like nothing at all had happened to her. If you're new here, subscribe now, because this story only gets stranger from here. That year, though, something was different. 2 nights before the freezing, my grandmother pulled me close and told me one thing. Don't come into the barn until the frost breaks on the window glass, not a day before. I asked her why. She wouldn't answer. She just said it again, slower, like she needed me to remember it exactly, word for word. I didn't think much of it at the time. Old women said strange things, and I didn't know why hers had felt different this year, of all the years she'd said something like it before. The whole house was too busy to notice anything. Sealing the barn, packing straw, boiling the mixture down. By the time we carried her out to the board, I'd nearly forgotten the warning altogether. Interrupt beat. There's a particular kind of silence a house gets into once everyone's decided not to be scared out loud. We lived in that silence for most of that January, and I told myself it was only the cold making the walls creak the way they did. Weeks in, I started hearing something at night. A scraping sound, low and steady, coming from the direction of the barn. Even our dog wouldn't go near that end of the yard anymore, and I noticed he'd taken to sleeping under my bed instead of by the door. I immediately woke my older brother, asked if he'd heard the scraping too. He said no, and went back to sleep like it was nothing. At this point, I started checking the barn window every morning, watching for the frost pattern my grandmother had warned me about. Then one morning, the glass wasn't frosted at all. It was clear, wiped almost, like a hand had passed over it from the inside. I told my father. He told me to stay inside and mind my chores. That's when I noticed something else. Footprints in the snow, small ones, leading from the barn door out toward the tree line and back again. Only one direction made sense if somebody had walked out and returned. I knew nobody in our house was missing. nobody I could account for. And yet, the prints stopped exactly at the porch step, like whoever made them had simply gone inside. Tell me in the comments if you'd have gone out to check that barn yourself, because I did, and to this day I wish I hadn't. I waited until the house was asleep and went out alone with a lantern. The barn door was already open, just a crack. Inside, the board where my grandmother had been laid was empty, ice still clinging to the edges, half melted weeks before it had any right to be. I could see her breath curling in the lantern light before I even heard the sound. A slow, wet breathing right behind me. I turned around and suddenly she was standing in the doorway, upright on her own 2 feet. Her skin still the color of the ice she'd been carried out on. She had the same calm smile from October. Then she spoke, and what she said had no business coming from a woman frozen solid for 2 months. She said my baby sister's name, the sister who died the winter before, a death I had never told a living soul about, not even my own mother. The next thing I saw was her hand reaching for my face, fingers still hard as the ice they'd come from, and I got the hell out of there without once looking back. I didn't stop running until I reached the house. By the time my father got a lantern out to the barn, it was empty. No footprints leaving it, no sign of her anywhere. I thought it was over, that whatever had come back that January had gone into the tree line and stayed gone. 3 days later, a knock came at the door. Standing on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, thin and freezing and confused, was my grandmother. Alive, with no memory of the barn, the ice, or the 2 months she was supposed to have spent frozen on that board. I had no idea what to tell her, so I never told her anything at all. She lived another 6 years after that. She never went near the barn again, and neither did I. To this day, nobody in my family has ever explained who or what I actually saw wearing her face that night. And I've never been able to explain why, all these years later, this account keeps resurfacing online, uploaded by no one, from nowhere at all. That's the ledger, exactly as it was found, wrapped inside a video nobody has ever claimed to have made, about a ritual nobody in Vermont will confirm ever existed. If this one got under your skin, stay close, because the next story on this list happens inside a house where every door only locks from the outside. Subscribe before it starts. You won't want to walk in part way through.